All right, you guys, this episode 57 of War Stories. And without further ado, I'm going to get straight to it. So check it out, you guys. As you guys can see, I'm trying to get out more episodes of War Stories. War Stories, Inner Demons. I'm just trying to get content out. I'm trying to get out at least 2 episodes a day. Now, again, I know I sound like a broken record, but later on this week, I'm going to bring back Inner Demons, and I'm going to try. If I don't get out 2 episodes a night of each series, at least I'm going to bring 1 and 1. So you guys will at least get 1 of Inner Demons and 1 of War Stories. Now, again, the only thing I want to say before I jump straight into this is if you guys got any questions, drop them in the community section. I also want to start incorporating the Q&As back into the regular lineup. So you guys got questions. It doesn't matter what it is. You guys think they're stupid questions. I don't care. The only stupid question is the one that's not asked. So you got questions, drop them in the community section and help me get the Q&As back on board. Anyways, let me get straight to it. So I'm going to take you guys all the way back to 1987 again. Yeah, it was live in 87. I'm not going to lie. Between 84 and 88, I was out there on the streets running amok, doing all kind of stuff. So you're going to hear 87 a lot, between 87 and 84. So 87, let me just say this. So the hood was a different place back then, obviously, than it is today, or than it was in the 90s, in the mid-90s. There wasn't no sureños out there in the city, or out in Northern California. There wasn't too many areas where sureños were starting to establish themselves. That would come later. So in 87, there was still a lot of red-on-red conflict out there. I remember when it was just neighborhood against neighborhood, norteño against norteño. My hood, SFM, San Framichon, we used to go at it with Daly City. There were several neighborhoods in Daly City that we had funk with. Eastside Daly City, Fogtown, Diablo Park, Wino Park. Those are just a couple of them. But we used to go at them with those guys all the time. You guys will hear me talk more about some of those stories later on. Now, again, I'm not glorifying this for those of you that are like, this dude is just glorifying gangbanging. I'm not doing that. I'm telling these stories so that those individuals that are glorifying that lifestyle, that think it's cool to be out there gangbanging, just understand what comes with that lifestyle. You know, again, I've said it before, but if you're out there ripping and running, you're out there stabbing and shooting people, you're out there mopping people up, beating people up, molly-whopping cats, you're going to get it too. Sooner or later, it's going to come back. So I don't like to call myself lucky that I made it to be 53. I would like to think that I knew how to navigate myself in the streets because I learned at an early age. I grew up in the streets. So the point is you might not know how to navigate through the streets like I did. You might not know the streets. You might not be able to move around in the streets like I did. Or you just might end up encountering different situations where you end up becoming a victim out there because somebody else got the drop on you, or you just were in the wrong place at the right time and you ended up getting the bad and the chitty end of the stick. You know what I'm saying? So that's the purpose why I talk about these stories, is because I want, you know, those youngsters that are still thinking that lifestyle is cool to understand what comes with it. Now, I'm keeping it real. You know, I'm not here blowing smoke up anybody's ass. But, you know, the other reason is some of you guys like to hear the war stories. You guys like to hear about the things that we used to do as young gangbangers. It's some of you are infatuated with it. Some of you are intrigued by it, whatever you want to call it. So call it entertainment, whatever you want to call it. It is what it is. It ain't what it ain't. Anyway, so back in 87, you know, I was running around out there at that time. You know, things were about to get crazy. I want to say this was the beginning of 87 because around that time, my house would end up getting raided and I would end up basically out there on the streets fending for myself, as you guys heard in one of my previous war stories. And, you know, my mom and my stepfather were both gone, and that kind of changed everything as far as what I was doing, where I was staying, how I was moving around on the streets, and all that good stuff. But while they were still out there and I was still living somewhat of a normal life, even though I was still addicted to hard drugs, heroin, at the age of 17, we still were living in a house, and things were like I said, they were somewhat normal. At least I had a house to go to, a home to go to at one point before we got raided. At least, we had a family dog, a pet. There was some normalcy there. Now, when I was running around the streets with a lot of my homies from my neighborhood, I got into all the gang banging. We used to fight in the alley. I would always be posted up on 24th and Mission. I was out there robbing people. I was out there doing all kind of crazy stuff. The one thing that I was never really into was clubbing. Night clubbing was never my thing. And again, I told you guys this in yesterday's episode. When I was younger, in my teens, alcohol used to make me violent. It call it liquid courage, call it whatever you wanted. I was still a knucklehead with or without it, but with it, it turned me up. It made me want to fight. I would do dumb shit. I would see somebody, look for a reason to pick a fight, and next thing you know, I'd be fighting. That's what alcohol used to do to me. Now, put me in a nightclub in an environment like that, and it always got crazy. Put me in a bar, a nightclub, somewhere like that. That's why I stayed out there on the streets, because I didn't know how to act. That's the best way I can say it. I did not know how to act. Anyways, I'm not gonna say I completely just would never go to a nightclub, but on this one occasion, I ended up going to a club. Now, there's several clubs that were out there in the city that I used to know. Those clubs, I used to hear it all the time. Those clubs were the spot to be. There was a lot of homies used to go out there. There was always a lot of females out there. It was cracking. You had Deviate was one of the clubs that was out there, that was a popular spot. You had the Brick House, that was like the older crowd. A lot of them were my homeboys from my neighborhood. A lot of my homies used to go there. You had City Nights, where I'm about to talk about. That was a younger crowd. It had two decks, two dance floors, an upper and a lower, and it was a big place. There was a lot of different kind of people that went there, a lot of diversity, a lot of different kind of people. You had Africanos, Woods, Asians, others, Rasa. You had everybody that used to go through there. So it was a spot that used to jump all the time. Then there used to be, I remember hearing about Studio West and Studio 47. And then there was, for those of you that really go way back, and those of you that are around my age remember those spots out there, I bet you some of you don't remember the Circle Star. Unfortunately, it burned down. That was a spot that was out there in Redwood City or San Mateo County. And that spot was, if you were into oldies, that spot always had some of the best, the best groups. A lot of the oldie groups used to go to that club, and they call it the Circle Star because the stage, the actual stage, was on a big, like a big round circle, and it slowly turned, like real slow, not to where these cats are on there doing their thing and eventually they get dizzy, but it would turn slowly. So, over time, that group would end up facing you or facing everybody in the club at one point in time. It was a cool spot. Clubs or groups like the Gap Band or the Dells or the Delphonics, the Tempries, the Shy Lights, the Temptations. Those are the kind of groups that used to go there. It was always old school, oldies, love jams, that kind of stuff, my kind of music. So, unfortunately, like I said, it burned down and it doesn't exist no more. But Those were some of the spots, and I pretty much had been to all of them. However, some of them I never even made it inside. Studio 47, I hit the parking lot. Something always kicked off in the parking lot. We would end up fighting with another hood, another gang, or somebody, that I was with would end up getting into something, or they would end up kicking something off. And next thing you know, we'd be fighting. So on this one particular night that this incident happened, I was kicking it with some homeboys from Hampshire. And this is to show you guys how much time has changed, how much has changed my neighborhood, how much has changed San Francisco and the gangs out there. So my hood is on 24th in Mission, but 24th runs all the way down to like Potrero, and then it runs down a couple more streets, and then it ends up coming to a dead end. You got La Raza Park down there, but then you got a bunch of little small hoods that are all around there. You had like Hampshire, and you had Bryant Street boys, you had the Tacoma Street boys, you had the 22nd Street, the Hogs, you had 30th Street, Cortland, Happy Heights, Southeast, Excelsior Park, 25th. You had all kind of neighborhoods. Hampshire, like I said, there was in a bunch of smaller hoods that, there was hoods popping up all the time. Shotwell boys, I can't even remember all the gangs that were out there at that time. But again, we were always fighting against each other. It was Norteño against Norteño. There was the concept of even fighting with the Sureño was like it is out there to LA right now, two Sureños. They don't even think about Norteños out there because they don't exist. That's how it was out there in Northern California at one time before they started establishing themselves. Now, I know this is off topic. There's a lot of different theories about these Sureños, whether or not they actually migrated from LA to Northern California, or if they were just Norteño raised or Northern raised raza that, their loyalties were with the Sureños. There's a lot of different theories. I have my own take on it, and there's a lot of different fads that I think contributed to it. But again, there was none of that, north and south out there in the city at that time. It was just red on red, and that's how it was. So anyways, that day I was kicking it with, I was going to tell you guys how much has changed. The other thing is like 24th, whenever you would go down there back in like the 80s or up until like the mid 90s, you used to see a lot of homeboys out there by McDonald's, right there on the corner, in the alley, right there on 24th and Shotwell, all the way down on Harrison, going all the way down to Potrero. You would see homeboys, either they would be posted up somewhere or they'd be walking up and down 24th. That was the spot right there. Then we had our little alley. That's where we used to take it. If you had an issue with somebody, we used to take it back there, and we used to throw hands all the time. I got into a bunch of fights with not just other gang members, but a lot of my homies from my own hood back in those days. And I'll get into all that stuff. But anyway, so that day, I ran into a couple homeboys from Hampshire. So, Hampshire was that last neighborhood at the end of 24th by Potrero. Now, some of the homies from Hampshire used to post up right there. You'd be able to find some of them down there on 24th in Harrison, all through that little area right there. I used to run into a lot of them. I used to kick it with a lot of them. And, sometimes we'd be driving by and we swoop them up. They were allies with us. Cats used to come down to the hood and try to jump out. Daly City, Fogtown, Diablo Park, Excelsior Park, whoever. At one time, we even went at it with 30th Street. We were getting off with those cats. We were getting off with Cortland. It just depended on what was happening at what time. So on this day that this incident happened, I remember I was on 24th. I was strolling down towards Potrero, and I seen Pablo driving by. Snoopy was sitting shotgun. There was another homie that have a lot of history with. I know a lot of his family. Wallace Johnson, they call him Wally from Hampshire. Straight bruiser. This dude is Africano and raza, but this dude got hands. We were knocking cats out when we were youngsters, and me and that cat running together, it was always, we were always getting into some kind of mischief or some kind of trouble. But that's another story for another day. So I remember they were driving by, and I flagged them down, and Pablo was like, "What you doing, Box?" And I'm like, "Man, nothing. I'm trying to get into something." And they were like, "Jump in, bro. You want to go? You want to go to because Pablo used to work at City Night, so he was like, "You want to go to my job? Because I can get you guys in free, and you know what I mean. We'll go down there, kick it for a little bit. I'll bring you back. You know what I mean." So I'm like, "Hell yeah!" So I wasn't doing nothing that night. But again, nightclubbing wasn't really my thing. It was more about just kicking it with those cats. Like I said, I had a lot of history with Wallace, so I jump in and we smash off to City Nights. That's where the homeboy worked at. He was a bouncer over there. So I remember we're driving over there. We hit a gas station, and we get some gas and we jump out, and we're chopping it up, and we grab a couple beers because they don't have they never have malt liquor at clubs. I don't understand that. That's why I don't mess around with clubs either. Clubs, restaurants, even bars. Why don't they ever carry malt liquor? I can never understand that. The only places you can get malt liquor is at the damn liquor store. So whenever I would go to a function like this, I would always tell the homies, they stop at the liquor store or something, bro. I got to get malt liquor because I'm not drinking that piss water. I don't drink Budweiser. Can't drink. Corona's cool, tastes good, but all it does is make you fat, and it doesn't get me buzzed. Same with Budweiser, same with Heineken, same with the Tecate, all that. It doesn't do nothing for me. I got to have malt liquor. So anyway, we end up leaving from the gas station, and we get to City Nights. So it was I want to say it was like a Friday. The place was packed. Like I said, there's two floors, there's two dance floors, an upstairs and a downstairs. And again, it was packed, elbow to elbow. So, hey, I'm gonna say it like this, and you guys can get your clown on all you want. But B can get his swerve on. If I hit the deck, if I hit the dance floor, you know what I mean? I'll stop the whole dance floor. Motherfuckers be like, damn, check this cat out. No, on the real. I mean, I got some moves, man. You know what I'm saying? But my rule of thumb is I'll dance. I'll get my little groove on, whatever you want to call it, my swerve on. But if you can't hold two drinks in your hands, if you can't be double fisted out there on the dance floor without spilling them, if you spill them, you're doing too much. That's my rule of thumb. So that gives you an idea. I just, I'll be out there just, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, but for the most part, I'm a wallflower. If I go to a club, you're going to see me posted up on the wall. Unless a female will come up and be like, come on, come dance with me. And I'll be, nah, I'm good. But come on, and just insist and just drag me out there. Then I'll make myself move and act like I like it. So that's what ended up happening that night too. At one point we got in. Pablo was able to get us right in. We went straight to the front of the line. The other bouncers let us in. So we go in, we're kicking it in there. And being that Pablo worked there, he put us in a VIP section, and it was cool. It was actually kind of cool. I brought the beer in. I had my malt liquor. I was happy. Everybody was enjoying themselves. And then, something always happens. Somebody always kicks something off, and it's not like I got a whole lot of room to talk because, like I said, when I drink, usually I'm the one that starts some shit. But that night, it wasn't me. That's all I'm gonna say. It was not me. You guys heard that one before. It wasn't me. you know what I'm saying? It wasn't me. So I'm out there, I'm kicking it with me and Wallace are kicking it, and we're just drinking. Homeboy has some yes guy, pulled out a leño. He sparked it up. We're smoking weed and we're just chilling, man. Pablo, that fool, he's the type of cat that will be out there dancing. Snoopy, he's another. These cats are them. That's their scene. That's their crowd, man. They go to clubbing, they dance, they do all that good stuff. So they're out there doing their thing. Now, like I said, the dance floor was packed, elbow to elbow. I don't know exactly what set it off, but for whatever reason, Snoopy ended up getting into it with some cat that was on the dance floor dancing with his lady. I don't know if somebody bumped into somebody. I want to say that's what it was, because after everything was over and we all ended up, when we left, I remember talking to Snoopy about it, and I think it was, he had bumped into this cat or this cat bumped into him. And how many times does that happen? Motherfucker don't say excuse me or my bad or something. Just kind of like just bumps into you or steps on your shoe and just kind of gives you that look and goes on to doing what he does. So, that ain't acceptable. You know what I'm saying? It's not acceptable. So me and Wallace are kicking back. All of a sudden, I see Snoopy going at it with some cat. The dance floor just kind of like, it kind of opened up and these cats are fighting. They hit the deck. They both slip. They fall. They're on the floor. They jump up. They're going at it. Boom. I see Pablo come running up and he kicks the fool that he's fighting with, kicks him in the face, drops him. Before we could even react, this had happened. When Pablo dropped him, some other dude socked Pablo, just straight sucker punched him from the side. And by then, me and Wallace went out there. We both torpedoed out there. And I remember I barreled into the dude that socked Pablo. I started going at it with him. We're going at it. People are trying to get out the way. They're still playing the music, but you can hear the DJ or somebody saying, trying to get control of what's happening. Hey, you guys, let's have a good time. Let's stop all that. But we weren't trying to hear all that. The fight was on. So, I'm going at it with this cat that sucker punched Pablo, and next thing you know, I get sucker punched from the side. Pink. And I turn around, I start going at it with this cat. I get sucker punched again. It seemed like every time I turned around, I was getting socked again like a rag doll. These fools had me like a pinball for a minute. And I don't think these cats were together. I don't think they were all together. I think it ended up starting with one individual, and the dance floor just kind of like turned against us, everybody that was out there. So next thing you know, I'm fighting with all kind of people. If I don't recognize you, I'm firing on you. That's how crazy it got. The only ones I recognized out there were Pablo, Snoopy, and Wallace. So I'm sure they were doing the same things. I'm cracking anybody that comes close to me. So we're going at it. It just seems like, more and more cats were getting involved. And I remember I'm fighting with all kind of cats, and I'm just thinking to myself, damn, we're going to end up getting mopped up if, there's too many cats that are getting involved. Every time I turn around, I'm fighting with somebody different. You know what I mean? And it just got crazy out there. It was crazy. Let me give you some more. I can see Wallace out the side of my eye. He's handling this business. Snoopy's getting off. Pablo was a big dude. He was a bouncer. Snoopy was a tall cat. He had hands. I already told you guys, Wally was a bruiser. Africano raza, and he was a thick ass. Even as a kid, that boy was always big, and his family were all like that. They all were just some big ass cats. Man, he had some uncles that were like some bodybuilder type of cats. Curtis Johnson, Leroy Johnson, Farmer John, all them cats. what's his name? I can't remember the other one's name. But anyway, so at that time I wasn't huge, but I was a good sized youngster, and I hadn't been to the joint yet, so I wasn't swole or nothing like that. Like I would later get, I would get huge later, but I still was able to throw hands back then. I was in the boxing, even though I was doing what I was doing. So all four of us was out there putting in work, but we're fighting the whole dance floor. So I remember thinking that though, at some point, I think I was running out of gas, and it's just every time I turn around, I'm going at it with somebody else. Next thing chairs are flying, tables are getting knocked over. There's a little area where people can sit down. That it cleared out. So all of a sudden, just when I start to think that things are, that these cats are going to end up getting us, it's going bad for us. Even though I think we still, even though it was only four of us, we were doing pretty good for fighting the whole damn dance floor. And these are not kids we're fighting. There's some grown ass men that, we're slinging them with. Bunch of big ass dudes. They're disco ducks, but still, disco ducks can fight too. Fly by nights, sometimes they can fight too. But the next thing I remember is I see all kind of bouncers come through, and Pablo works there. And these are his boys. That, Pablo knows all of them because he worked there. So next thing you know, all these dudes with yellow jackets come in, and they just start turned into one of them prison style riots like Pelican Bay. Remember that 2000? No, but it really did turn into like just a big brawl. You know what I mean? And that's when the tables turned. We started mopping cats up. Cats were getting knocked out. A couple cats went to sleep. We're on the dance floor out. Their ladies were down there with them crying, and you know what I mean? So anyway, at some point, after all these bouncers come in and literally just start clearing the whole area, it seemed like the whole dance floor has started to disappear, or everybody just kind of backed up and dispersed. It ended just like that. You know what I mean? And some of those bouncers were Samoans. They were Usos, some big ass Samoan cats. Pablo is half Samoan. But I remember Pablo was, he was talking to some of those other bouncers, and they were telling him, "Hey, get up out of here, bro. They already called the cops. The cops are coming." So, we all bailed out the back, and I had a blade on me that night too. I could have stabbed somebody that night, but it was mano y mano. I didn't think it was necessary to pull my blade out and start sticking people and turn it into that type of night, man. I would do that later on in other incidents, but it was four of us getting off hand to hand, mano y mano, and I never pulled it out. So anyway, we ended up splitting. We all ran out to the parking lot. We jumped in Pablo's ride. We took off. By the time we left, I don't even remember even seeing cops. So, we were long gone before they even got there. But, that incident right there it actually came out in the paper because, it turned into a big incident. The cops came, they shut the whole city nights down that night. They were bringing people to the hospital, people that were hurt, that had their mouth busted up, or they had they got cracked over their head. Whoever had injuries, they were taking them to the hospital. But we were gone. For the most part, for as much squabbing as we did out there on the dance floor with that many people, nobody looked like they were just beat up. Nobody looked whooped. We all looked like we were fighting, like we had gotten into a fight. Trust me, when you're fighting and you're getting stole on, every time you turn around, somebody else is stealing on you, or they're sucker punching you. They're taking free punches. You're gonna end up getting some lumps and bruises. There's just no way you're not. But for the most part, I remember I broke one of my fingers. Wallace broke. I think he broke his right hand. But other than that, it was nothing. Busted lip, maybe a black eye. But besides, me breaking a finger, Wally breaking his hand, for the most part, we handled our business. We should have been mopped up out there with that many cats that we were fighting. I can't emphasize enough, how many cats we were up against. I wish there would have been footage because, it lasted. You're out there fighting in a situation like that. It seems like it lasts for a long time. But that probably ended up lasting for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And that's a long time to fight. It is. If you're a brawler, you're somebody that gets into a lot of fights, 2 minutes of squabbing is a long time. That's just a long time. Somebody doesn't get knocked out and you're going that long, you're gonna be winded by then. If you're chunking, you're throwing hands for that long. But for as many cats, again, like I said, as many cats as we were fighting that night, and there was only four of us, basically us against the whole dance floor until the bouncers came. We looked cool. We weren't all busted up, leaking all bad. We handled our business. That's why, I used to stay away from clubs. That wasn't my atmosphere. It wasn't my thing. And practically almost, I'm gonna tell you, like 99% of the time I went to a club, it was always gonna end like that. Somebody was gonna fight. If it wasn't somebody else, it was gonna be me. So I stayed away from those places. I stayed away from them. I was out there in the street running around, and it was just never my type of. I could never get into those type of environments. I like the music, the females, the women, and all that, but other than that, I didn't do too many clubs. This is just another one to get out to you guys real quick. I had already had the thumbnail made last night, like I told you guys, but I got some bangers coming up for you guys. I know what you guys want to hear about, so I'm gonna bring it. And I'm gonna be talking about a lot of this, the red on red that I experienced when I was younger in my neighborhood, because there was a lot of it in the late 80s, early 90s. So I'm gonna be getting into all that, but I got some other stuff that I know you guys want to hear about, the real good. So that's what I'm gonna get into next. Anyways, this episode 57, this your boy B, and I'm out.